I think it goes without saying that Orochimaru is one of the most influential and pivotal villains introduced in Naruto, especially in part 1. I don't know how many of you guys remember, but in part 1, Orochimaru was pretty much involved in everything that was going on. Infiltrating the Chunin exams to give Sasuke the curse mark, killing the Kazekage and playing him in order to receive the hidden sand. Even in the last arc before the time skip, all the antagonists were all the underlings of Orochimaru. Of course, once the Akatsuki got introduced, they started challenging him in that stance. But that kinda makes sense. Orochimaru was a member of the Akatsuki after all. Which brings me to today's topic. How does the OG villain fare up to the new guys? Can Hidan solo him quicker than he did Asuma? Or can he beat Nagato, get the Rinnegan for himself, and become the omnipotent god of the Akatsuki? Well, that's what we're here to figure out today. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed and drop a like to show some support. Okay, so let's get Orochimaru to run the Akatsuki Gauntlet, see where he really stood within the organization. But before we do that, I want to establish how Orochimaru was perceived by the Akatsuki. As in, how strong or impressive members of the Akatsuki think Orochimaru was. If we go to when the Akatsuki was discussing Orochimaru's death, Kisame states that it's pretty impressive taking down someone so powerful as Orochimaru. And Kisame was one of the stronger Akatsuki too. So that means that even the Akatsuki perceived Orochimaru as a threat. Orochimaru already had beef with most of the Akatsuki. He tried to steal Itachi's body, then got cooked, and both Deidara and Sasori swore to kill him. Part of his long-term plans was to deal with the Akatsuki, eventually of course. Presumably after obtaining Sasuke's body and modifying it to his accords. Now it's hard to gauge how strong Orochimaru was during his Akatsuki days. All we know is that he couldn't get the upper hand against a much younger Itachi. And the worst thing about that is, he ambushed Itachi, so he couldn't even prep for his hacks. I'll get into Itachi versus Orochimaru in greater detail later. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Orochimaru is pretty comparable to the Akatsuki. I mean, that's obvious. He was a member for a reason. But he might fall short from the top tier members. For this match, I'll first discuss Orochimaru's base with both arms. Then if I need to, I'll go into Edo Tensei and the 8-headed Hydra form. Anyways, that's enough of an intro. Let's give the Sannin a run at the gauntlet, shall we? Let's start by picking off the ones that I think won't really stand a chance, more or less, against Orochimaru. Tier 1. Everyone's already thinking about Hidan, the self-proclaimed weakest of the Akatsuki. We all know that Hidan doesn't have much going for him outside of his immortality gimmick and cursed ritual. Like, he's decent at taijutsu, but can you really see some taijutsu getting Orochimaru? Hidan will just have that he can slash him and get some blood. But if Orochimaru is keeping up with four-tailed V2 Naruto, the same one that just one-shotted Sakura, the same Sakura that was dodging Sasori, then I think he's got a clear speed advantage. And even if Hidan manages to get some blood, I'm pretty sure Orochimaru's snake-style substitution technique can easily counter that. Like, it works by creating a new body that comes out of the user's mouth. Kinda like a snake shedding its skin. As for Hidan, he could probably handle him easily. I mean, if Shikamaru could find a way, then Orochimaru can too. He could paralyze him with the curse mark, maybe even just leave him to the snakes. Another member that I can't see really standing much of a chance is Konan. Well, without her stupid 100 billion paper bombs, of course. Jiraiya was able to handle her with little difficulty. I mean, her ability to turn her body into paper is pretty neat and all, but if she gets covered with a slimy substance, then she can't split. And the only way she can actually damage Orochimaru is using explosives, which, like I said before, his substitution style is more than able to counter. To put this in better perspective, when Orochimaru invaded the Leaf, he was fighting the Hokage. When Konan invaded, she was fighting a couple of Aburame clansmen. Another member that I think stands no chance is Zetsu. He's not even a combatant really. I mean, Black Zetsu does fight the Mizukage alongside her elite guards, but I doubt I have to explain why the 3rd Hokage is well beyond the 5th Mizukage's pay grade. That Zetsu can only use some basic wood style anyways, and considering how well versed Orochimaru is with the 1st Hokage's cells, I wouldn't be surprised if he has counters to basic wood style ninjutsu. Okay, and now we start getting to the members that can actually stand a chance. Tier 2, let's look at Deidara. Deidara swore to kill Orochimaru, and his quest for killing him was apparently so precious to him that he lost his shit when he heard Sasuke beat him to it. Now, just because he was gonna try to kill him doesn't mean that he would have been able to. Remember, Deidara believed he could actually take Itachi on in a rematch. But how would that battle go? If we look at the anime canon, when both Deidara and Sasori faced Orochimaru, we can tell that Orochimaru did not fear Deidara or even Sasori that much really. I think Orochimaru is very slippery and Deidara's fighting style is too destructive to actually catch the snake. I mean, that's how he managed to escape during their fight. There's only a few strategies Deidara can employ that would actually be effective. Mostly thinking about the C4 Karura. The C0 is pretty effective, but if Sasuke could reverse summon himself, then there's no reason to think Orochimaru can't. I mean, yes, Sasuke had to put Manda under Genjutsu, and Manda did not listen to Orochimaru, but Orochimaru has like thousands of different other snakes he could use to reverse summon himself. The C4 could maybe be effective. Emphasis on maybe. I mean, the reason Sasuke got out was because A, he was a lightning user and could run lightning chakra through his body to disarm Deidara's miniature bombs. Now, Orochimaru does have all changes in chakra nature, but B, the only reason Sasuke used that was because he was able to read Deidara's hand seals using the Sharingan. So if Orochimaru doesn't know that, then he's not gonna come to the same conclusion as Sasuke. And I don't know if Orochimaru's substitution could work if his body's disintegrating from the inside out. But other than the C4, I can't see how Deidara can get the upper hand. All his other bombs are too flashy for Orochimaru to not see coming. Orochimaru's snake abilities can help him traverse the landmines, and even then, if he gets caught, he can just use his snake substitution to avert any damage. He can even use the Kusanagi blade to hunt Deidara from the sky. That thing extends pretty far, and if we give him Edo Tensei, then the 3rd Kazekage's Iron Sand can shoot down Deidara's bird. I'll give Deidara the C4, but that's about it. Tier 3, and it's Orochimaru versus his old partner. This is very interesting. I mean, I want to give Sasori the intel edge because he had a spy implanted in Orochimaru's organization. But he turned out to be a double agent, so I guess that gives the intel edge to Orochimaru. Now, I'm pretty sure he still knows more about Orochimaru than the average fella, but Orochimaru at least knows about Sasori's Hiriko and 3rd Kazekage puppet. Maybe he doesn't know about the army performance of 100 puppets, but Orochimaru can summon snakes like there's no end. Sasori has poisons, but Orochimaru's body's immune to poisons. If we fast forward to the 5 Kage summit, Kakashi told Sakura that the poisoned kunai wouldn't work on Sasuke because he assumed that Sasuke still had Orochimaru's curse mark. Sasori also wanted to get intel on the reanimation jutsu through Kabuto, which would mean that Sasori saw it as a superior method. Superior than using a person's corpse as a puppet to bring out that corpse's full potential. In the anime canon fight they have, it seems like Orochimaru's 3rd Kazekage was overpowering Sasori's puppet, which makes sense considering the 3rd Kazekage would know how to use the Iron Sand better. Now, after the confrontation, Orochimaru does flee, but that was due to not studying the Edo Tensei enough, and he would have had to face both Deidara and Sasori, not just Sasori. Matter of fact, the first time we see Orochimaru in Shippuden, he's ready to ambush Sasori, with the help of Kabuto, but Kabuto's a non-factor. It's not like he brought Sasuke. And this is a weakened Orochimaru, one that couldn't use his arms, and had his body rejecting him. What both encounters solidify is the idea that Orochimaru was not scared of facing Sasori, not like Itachi per se. And honestly, I think it's unfair because Orochimaru has too much edge with Kabuto working for him. That and immunity to poisons, he'd probably deal with both the Hiroko shell and the third Kazekage with relative ease. Without Edo Tensei's, it's harder to tell. I mean, Sasori's tough, but Orochimaru without his arms was holding his own against four-tailed Naruto. I'm pretty sure his Kusanagi blade can destroy the puppets if he can lift the four tails. Plus, you add on top of that how durable Orochimaru is and how the poison won't affect him, then yeah, it becomes hard to argue for Sasori. I mean, just imagine how much stronger four-tail fight Orochimaru would be if he could use his arms. He also has too much knowledge on Sasori. People will say, oh, but Sasuke defeated him, and Sasuke's relative to Deidara, and Deidara said Sasori's stronger. But A, the Orochimaru that Sasuke defeated was dying and couldn't use his hands, which the Orochimaru we're discussing right now is not. And B, Orochimaru wasn't defeated, he was absorbed by Sasuke. One could argue that Orochimaru intentionally let Sasuke absorb him so that he could take over his body once weakened. And Orochimaru almost did just that in the Itachi fight. And if it wasn't for Itachi, who knows what would have happened. So yeah, you could make the argument that Orochimaru never really lost that fight, and it was still going somewhat according to plan. So you really can't scale this prime-ish Orochimaru to heavy Sasuke at all. Maybe Sasori's puppet body will give Orochimaru some trouble, but I think Orochimaru can hack it. Like maybe he'll get caught off guard a couple times, but Orochimaru has lives to spare, and eventually he'll figure out Sasori's heart gimmick. Sasori did kinda one-up the third Kazekage, but Orochimaru got the fourth pretty effortlessly, and he was also brawling with the third Hokage, so that speaks for itself. Tier 4, Kakuzu. Now unlike his partner, Kakuzu will put up a much better fight. Not to say that I think he'll win, this is just a trickier battle to tackle. Kakuzu is pretty durable, he has a tough hide that makes him invulnerable to physical attacks, the diamond morph that is only weak to lightning, so it might be harder to inflict straight damage to his main body with the Kusanagi blade or a snake bite if Kakuzu uses that defense. And since Orochimaru doesn't have the Sharingan, he won't be able to tell that he needs lightning chakra. But who knows? Orochimaru is pretty smart. He's definitely got some lightning jutsu at his disposal, he just needs to figure out that Kakuzu's armor is earth-based. Other than that, Kakuzu's 4 other hearts may be a nuisance, but it's not like large-scale elemental jutsu will kill Orochimaru. He has so many ways around it, triple Rashomon gates, snake substitution. His main problem will be Kakuzu's main body working in tangent with his hearts, especially if Kakuzu manages to use all 4 hearts at the same time. Now like I said before, I think Orochimaru can probably survive anything that Kakuzu throws his way, but the issue is that Kakuzu's Earth Spear, which the databook states that there's nearly no jutsu other than lightning style ninjutsu that can defeat the diamond morph. And Orochimaru would have to deal with that, in tangent with his 4 hearts flying around launching elemental attacks. And like I said before, Orochimaru does have all 5 chakra natures, but he never uses lightning style canonically. Maybe he'll eventually throw a lightning attack and it'll work? But if we were charitable to Kakuzu and said, yes, the diamond morph is unbreakable, and we assumed that Orochimaru wouldn't use lightning chakra in character, Orochimaru with Edo Tensei steadily takes this. Or even with the 8-headed Hydra. I believe that while Kakuzu won't be easy to deal with, if Orochimaru resorts to his hacks, then he wins. He can use summoned snakes for crowd control, maybe take out some of the hearts with the Kusanagi blade. And the thing about Orochimaru is, he has so many jutsu that we don't know. So Orochimaru with both arms might just have some jutsu that can surpass the diamond morph. And if not, then the 8-headed Hydra should be able to do the job. Tier 5. And this is the toughest challenger Mr. Snake Man's faced so far. Kisame Hoshigaki is no joke, and I believe that both of them are in the same weight class. Both are going head first against V2 Jinchuriki. Of course, Kisame has a gimmick and can consume Biju Chakra and use it for his own stamina. Orochimaru, while he can absorb chakra, it's nowhere near the same extent as Kisame. Kisame himself thinks that Orochimaru is pretty strong and says that a Sannin is above his pay grade in part 1, but of course part 1 is before Kisame gets amped to be able to push Guy to the 6th gate with only a 30% chakra clone. They both have pretty impressive durability. Kisame can use the chakra he consumes to regenerate, and Orochimaru is borderline immortal. Like, I'm not even sure what this ability is. One thing I'd like to point out is that Orochimaru, when he fought Naruto, was months away from dying and couldn't use his hands for jutsu. So it's reasonable to assume that a healthy Orochimaru with both his hands would have outright beat the Four Tails. Maybe he would have even pushed him to 6 Tails. Who knows? At his prime, Orochimaru was comparable to the 3rd Hokage. Now of course this is the 3rd Hokage that was nowhere near his prime, but you have to remember that this is the same 3rd Hokage that's taken on Swirly Zetsu, the one that held off the entire Shinobi Alliance. Let's not forget that Orochimaru was there too, and that he performed better than the 5 Kage did. Now we are headed a bit towards War Arc Orochimaru territory, but come on, he doesn't gain anything in comparison to his prime except being able to use wood style from the White Zetsu, and that's something that Orochimaru had long ago. I guess a lot of this is gonna boil down to one thing. Can Samehara absorb Orochimaru's chakra? Orochimaru does have some really nasty chakra, like his blood is poison, but it's not like Bijou chakra is pleasant, cause like this was basically the reason Kisame folded B. You got a huge amp siphoning up Yuki's chakra. And like I said, I don't know if Samehara can stomach Orochimaru's rancid chakra. Base Kisame does have some impressive scaling. He was able to tank a Hirodora more or less, so it's hard to tell what Orochimaru would have to hit him with in order to take him out. I do think Orochimaru is more durable, especially with his substitution. I think Orochimaru might have to resort to his hacks, like the 8-headed Hydra, the same one that was sparring the Susanoo, and the Edo Tensei. Fused Kisame is a different story, because he only emerges once Kisame has consumed a massive amount of chakra, and Killer Bee has way more chakra than Orochimaru. Plus, it's debatable if Samehara could even consume Orochimaru's chakra. I mean, if it can, then GG, but otherwise, I do think that Fused Kisame could have some win cons, but like I said before, I doubt he'll get to that transformation. I think Orochimaru without the Edo Tensei or the 8-headed Hydra is debatable. I mean, he might have something up his sleeve. Maybe he can poison him. I don't know if I see base Kisame beating Orochimaru. Let's just put this into perspective. Suigetsu was scared shitless of Orochimaru, and when Suigetsu saw Kisame, he jumped to fight him right away. This Orochimaru, the one that's not dying and has both his arms, is a monster. But I think Kisame's in the same weight class as him, and takes some scenarios. But overall, I gotta go with Orochimaru. And now, we get to who I believe to be beyond the grasp of Orochimaru. Tier 6. How anticlimactic. Of course, these 3 are considered to be a whole other level. Itachi has already had more than one encounter with Orochimaru, and the results speak for themselves. This is an Orochimaru that has both arms, and yet Itachi forced him to plead for his life and then run away. Even after Orochimaru got his reanimations and was ready to throw hands with the 3rd Hokage, he was still scared of Itachi and didn't even want to approach him again until he took over Sasuke's body. The next time when Orochimaru takes over Sasuke's body and releases the 8-headed Hydra snake, possibly the strongest thing in his arsenal, he only manages to shake the Susanoo a bit, and then he gets sealed by the Totsuka blade not too long after. And you have to remember that now, Itachi's the one in Orochimaru's shoes, where he's nearly blind and pretty much dying. So this isn't even a prime Itachi or anything. And it's hard for me to have any faith in Orochimaru when he himself believed that he'd stand no chance and would have to get his own Sharingan before he could face Itachi. Pain is another one that I think is just blatantly portrayed as a buff Sannin, not only in the fact that Jiraiya, even with his Sage mode and haxed frogs on his shoulders, didn't stand a chance, but in this whole god leader of the Akatsuki new level character. Look at it this way, Orochimaru had to pretend to be the Kazekage in order to get the Sand Village to help so that he could attack the village. Pain invaded the village alone and did way more damage than Orochimaru ever could. Also, another thing about fighting Pain head-on is that it's useless considering that the bodies are being remotely controlled. There's also nothing in Orochimaru's arsenal that could actually damage Pain, like the 8-headed Hydra could just be countered by Shinra Tensei or Chibaku Tensei, and the human path can actually release any Edo Tensei that Orochimaru may summon. Pain is just a really bad matchup. They even have a brief skirmish in the creation of the Akatsuki story in the game, and even though it's not canon, I believe it's pretty much how a confrontation between Orochimaru and Pain would go. And even Toby talks about how Orochimaru is behaving himself under Pain's supervision. So I think the narrative implication of Pain being a next level character in terms of powers is pretty clear here. And I really don't even see the point of talking about Obito. I mean, if he couldn't handle Itachi or Pain, then even just Orange Mask, he's like the hardest to kill. Kamui can pretty much counter anything that's thrown at him, and worst case, he always has an extra Sharingan ready to sacrifice. And the thing is, we don't really know if Orochimaru knew about this masked guy and his Haxed intangibility eye, and even both Conan and Itachi with prep couldn't take him out. So it's doubtful that Orochimaru would be able to do anything to him really without some knowledge of Kamui. These three characters are portrayed to be on a whole other level. Two of them were Kabuto's strongest reanimations behind Madara, and the third was one of the main bosses of the war, scaring Kabuto himself. Now if you give Orochimaru the reanimations of the first 4 Hokage during the war arc, then sure, the 4 Hokage solo. But Orochimaru can't even control them at that point, so it's hard to consider this a win for him. With the part 1 reanimations, yeah, no, I don't think he can win with those either. Like I said before, Orochimaru didn't even try to jump Itachi with those two. And based on how hard Orochimaru was lusting over Itachi's body and the Sharingan, the only reason he wouldn't pull up is if he himself didn't think that those reanimations were enough. And you have to remember that those are baby tier Hashirama and Tobirama, nowhere near their prime. There's some statements that imply that Kabuto, once he got his mastered Sage Mode, still considered himself to be below Orochimaru, but I think that was more of a respect thing, and he just held Orochimaru to a higher regard, considering Kabuto pretty much stole his identity after Orochimaru was absorbed by Sasuke. I believe Orochimaru was headed down Kabuto's path, and I believe that if he got Sasuke's body, then he probably would have surpassed Kabuto. He probably would have learned Snake Sage Mode, considering now he'd have a perfect body that could actually retain it. Maybe he would have tried to evolve his dojutsu even further. Now if this Orochimaru would have faced the top 3 Akatsuki, then sure, he may be able to take them down. But that would be venturing pretty deep into hypothetical town. So let's recap how Orochimaru runs the gauntlet. I think that with both his arms, he would body the lowest 3 members. He gets challenged by the middle members, but he defeats them all with mid to high difficulty. Maybe Fused Kisame would give him a run for his money, but I don't think Kisame can get to that transformation. And then he gets bodied by the top 3. You know, unless he takes over Sasuke's body, masters Snake Sage Mode, and gets the Rinnegan, then there's really nothing that anyone can do to stop him at that point. Now of course sick Orochimaru, the one that can't use his hands, would fare pretty differently. Kisame, Sasori, Kakuzu, they could probably take him. But we're not talking about sick Orochimaru. Now if you're a trooper and you've managed to make it this far, then be sure to drop a like. And let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Peace.